Hey everyone, shout out to UnusualMan47, the winner of our Week 2 Pick'em contest on Sleeper. If you would like to give us your real name, UnusualMan47, if you're out there listening, let us know. Otherwise, you'll just be UnusualMan47. You can tell I love saying your name. If you want to still join our Pick'em League for Week 3, you're free to sign up now. You might not win the regular season, but we go week to week as well, so we'll give you a shout out if you have some success. On this episode of the Sports Ballers, we'll be recapping Week 2, discussing some key quarterback injuries, and getting into Week 3, highlighting some key games that we really want to watch. Stay tuned. Welcome to the latest episode of the Sports Ballers podcast. My name is Eric Meyer. I am joined by Corey Puffett and Evan Ash as always. Gentlemen, how are we feeling today?
Just a little tired and nice and frustrated about sitting in all the traffic that came out of nowhere.
I'm feeling pretty good because I haven't had to go outside in the rain very much today, and my Lions hung a 50-piece on the Bears, so...
Corey's been chilling, yeah. He's enjoying himself. Well, I had a wonderful weekend in western Pennsylvania. Washington, PA. Evan is well aware of that place with the world's greatest McDonald's. Oh, and Blink-182 was there too, so that was fun. But that is a topic for another time. We've got a lot to get to today on this episode. Week 2 is in the books, finishing up with Monday Night Football last night. 2 games, really only one that was fun, I guess depending on who you picked or who you had on your fantasy team, but... one game came down to the wire. The other one was kind of a snoozer. So let's talk about Bucs-Texans. The Bucs won the game. I believe the final score was 20-19. Baker Mayfield led a game-winning touchdown drive that culminated with a Rachaad White touchdown run with 6 seconds left to put the Bucs up 20-19. They went for 2, but didn't get it. Didn't really matter. 6 seconds left. Just don't throw a pick 2 like Matt Ryan did.
That would have been quite something.
Yes, I was thinking the whole time. I was like, the points don't matter, guys. Just take a knee. Or if nothing's open, just don't throw the ball away. And they didn't. Baker just harmlessly lofted an incompletion, and they ended up winning the game 20-19. This was quite a game for a lot of reasons. It was a very flawed performance from both teams. The Bucs had, I believe, off the top of my head, 3 special teams blunders in the second half that I can think of off the top of my head. They had a missed field goal. It was a chip shot. They gave up a lengthy return. And there's one other that I can't remember off the top of my head, but it was pretty bad. Like it was not a good performance from that area of them. I think they also had, they might have had a turnover, maybe a muffed punt or something like that, but I can't recall. But
I don't remember what the third one was.
I don't remember.
But the Texans' offense is the main story for this game from their point of view, because that's the reason they lost. That's the reason they lost Week 1, and we have to ask the question at this point: what's going on with C.J. Stroud?
Yeah,
I have a lot of questions.
After a stellar rookie year, he regressed, or at the very least just didn't take that step forward into his second year. And the offense as a whole just looked worse. And I don't know that it's necessarily the team itself regressing, or if it is other teams making the adjustment and the Texans not making their own in turn in order to stay ahead of the curve. But either way, it's a regression from where they should be based on what we've seen them be just 2 years ago with very similar personnel.
I know last year the Texans had an issue with always being third down and long. Like their first and second down plays just didn't get enough yards to be able to consistently get new first downs. The sort of sequence that pops into my mind right now was, I want to say they got a Bucs turnover in plus territory, and then the Texans got 0 yards after that.
Okay, so now I think I'm recalling. I think that was a blocked punt.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I think that's what it was. Yeah. So basically a turnover, because
essentially
the punt's purpose is to flip field position, and they did not do that.
They lost yards after that. And then I can't remember if they kicked a field goal or had to punt themselves. It was. The point is, it was just some ineffective offense, right? They got no yards.
Yeah,
so.
Back-to-back weeks, good defensive performances for the Texans. They gave up 2 touchdowns on the first couple of drives for the Bucs, but then held them down for the rest of the game, basically, until Baker went hero mode. I mean, he had a scramble earlier in the fourth quarter, like with 9 minutes to go, where it was 3rd and 9, and he broke out of his sack, ran downfield. Looked like he suffered a serious injury because of the way he slid into the turf. I thought he had blown an Achilles or something like that.
His ankle was facing the wrong way.
Yeah, it looked like it was a traumatic injury. But then my boy CJ GJ started woofing at him, and that seemed like that was like sunlight to Superman. And he just like, well, I'm back up. Let's go. Yeah. Somebody's talking smack. All right, well, we're back to fully healthy. And and then again on 4th and 10, Baker looked like he was completely bottled up, about to be sacked. Somehow escapes, scrambles for 15 yards to keep the drive going, and they ultimately score the game-winning touchdown. So back-to-back weeks, heroics from Baker Mayfield led a game-winning touchdown drive against the Falcons, but also kind of back-to-back weeks where we're starting to see the Bucs offense and the flaws without certain players. Tristan Wirfs being injured is rearing its head. The pass rush has been effective against the Bucs both weeks. Chris Godwin is still out with his injury. So as these players return, the Bucs figure to get better, but it feels like they kind of stole 2 wins against one team that we think is good in the Texans and one team that maybe we didn't think that highly of in the Falcons, but certainly aren't a bad team, and they looked good against Minnesota as well. So, the Bucs 2-0 is a pretty good place to be no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, Todd Bowles is now 10-0 in the first 2 weeks of the season as the Buccaneers head coach.
Oh.
That's good for him.
I would say that's solid work, yeah.
Yeah, and, in a division that already is pretty weak as it is, the Saints are the Aints this year, as they have been for the past couple of years. The Panthers, we had some excitement about what they could be based on what we saw at the end of last season from Bryce Young, but so far we haven't seen any of that come to fruition. It's not great when the leading receiver for them seems to be Hunter Renfrow right now. And then the Falcons are, they could be interesting. Penix has been a little bit inconsistent. He's had moments where he's looked pretty solid. He's had a lot of moments where he has not. But they also have Bijan Robinson, who apparently is, in fact, Bijan Robinson. Yes. Drake London has looked good. Kyle Pitts has actually looked halfway decent for the first 2 weeks of the season. And their defense is frisky. The Falcons could be in it. So having these 2 wins early for the Bucs when they are not at full strength definitely, gives them a significant advantage in terms of trying to repeat as division title winners.
Yeah, my last thought on the Texans before we move on is I still think they're the best team in their division. They've lost 2 close games to what we consider to be good teams. Like the Rams all of us picked them, I believe, to win the NFC West. I know all of us picked the Bucs to win the NFC South. Yeah. And so they lost 2 close games to 2 teams that we really like. So it's not the end of the world.
No.
But they still look like the team that goes 10-7, plays in the Shakey's game, maybe wins it, and then gets just destroyed in the divisional round. At some point, you've got to progress. You've got to take that step forward. And the question is, what do you do as an organization to do that? The answer can't be fire DeMeco Ryans because he's been great. And the defense has gotten better and better every year. But you have to wonder, what's C.J. Stroud's status? Great rookie year. He was your top pick, or number 2 pick a few years ago, but he has to take the next step for them to have any Super Bowl aspirations, and so far, the last year and a half or so, it hasn't really been there. So
the issue right now, I think, for the Titans in terms of winning the division is that,
the Titans or the Texans?
Sorry, Texans.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
10 wins. Are they going to get to 10 wins based on how they started the season?
Right.
Well, I know they got 6 wins.
You also have to consider you've got the Colts are 2-0, having already beaten a Dolphins team that seems to be well past whatever magic they had early on in McDaniel.
Yes. The Dolphin has gone bad. Yeah, it's time.
And then the Broncos, who have what is supposed to be the best defense in the league, couldn't seem to slow down the Colts offense. Like, Daniel Jones has looked halfway decent so far this year. Jonathan Taylor is excellent. Tyler Warren looks like the real deal, and the Colts defense has been solid.
Yep.
They haven't even played either of their 2 games against the Titans or the Jaguars this year. So, like, the Colts right there are probably already a 6 wins right there, because I don't think that they're going to lose either game at this rate to the Titans or the Jaguars. They might steal one of the 2 games against the Texans, and I'm sure there's some other games in there. Like, the Colts still have to play the Raiders. They still have to play the Cardinals this year.
Ooh.
Both of them at home. So playing against bad teams at home. They get to play the Falcons at home. Like, the Colts could wind up stealing this division from the Texans when the Texans have no business letting this division be stolen from them.
All right, so let's talk about the Colts and the Broncos game, because that was probably the most exciting game of the week. It's pretty close.
I put one over it, but we can get to that later.
Field goal at the gun after a penalty.
Absolutely.
By the way, Kevin Harlan was magical and perfect for this game, as he always is.
Yes.
I'm so glad he was on the call here. But the Broncos and the Colts squared off in Indianapolis. The Broncos lost 29-28 on a last-second field goal where the Colts had a 60-yard attempt go awry, but then there was a leverage penalty called where somebody contacted the center, which you're not allowed to do.
And it's a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah, that's
so now you get to kick from 45 yards.
Much
that's
more manageable.
A gimme in today's NFL.
Well, it's not a gimme for the Broncos, because a big part of the reason the Broncos lost this game was because on their last 3 drives, they entered Colts territory in all 3, and they didn't score.
Ooh.
They didn't not failed to score a touchdown. They did not score any points.
Scored no points.
0 points.
Yep.
So they got to the 45-yard line. It was 4th and 4. Peyton he decided to punt from there, which I thought was a bad decision.
Do we still have what was the Twitter account?
The cowardly punts thing.
Yeah, cowardly punts. Do they still do that?
I have no idea. I haven't seen anything, but it was not a good decision. It didn't really hurt them because the Colts took over, and then they got to about midfield. Then they tried to go for it on 4th down and got stopped. So then the Broncos took over around midfield, and then they had a little bit of a drive going. Bo Nix throws a heinous interception.
Oh dear.
As Bo Nix does. Like, we watched him almost throw the game away against the Titans, who were bad last week. He had 3 turnovers. This week he had a couple of turnover-worthy plays, and this one he sailed a really bad throw on 3rd down when they were in field goal range. So turned the ball over there, and then once again they got into the red zone, had about 20 yards worth of penalties on back-to-back plays, had to settle for about a 42-yard field goal, and Will Lutz doinked it.
Oh jeez.
So that's why the Broncos were up 28-20, and they lost by giving up 3 straight field goals basically to the Colts.
How do you even do that? That takes a long time.
Yeah,
it does.
To give up 3 field goals.
I was watching the game on replay. I'm like, okay, the Broncos scored their 4th touchdown of the game with like 6 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter. I was like, wait a second, they just stopped scoring? Because I knew the final score, and I was like, you're telling me they're not going to score any more points? How did that happen? And then I saw them get into scoring range again. I was like, okay, what went wrong? And then I saw it.
Something went wrong.
And I'm like, okay, maybe after that they just were going 3 and out, and they just got shut. No, they kept moving the ball. Things just kept going wrong.
Yep.
And then they messed it up on the kick, but on the Colts kick that went awry again. 60-yard field goal though. In today's NFL, that goes through the uprights more often.
Sometimes.
Maybe not more often than not, but pretty regularly.
If you're Brandon Aubrey.
Yeah, he was drilling them.
Well, he's great, but the thing is, and you're also in a dome, so these kicks are much more makeable in a controlled environment. So even with the sort of rare penalty that was called, the Broncos had no business letting the Colts even get that close.
Right.
So whatever you think about the penalty being called in that situation, why were you even in a game there? Like, you should have put the game away several different times. And it was just a really bad loss for the Broncos, who are in a super competitive division.
Yeah, you can't afford those kinds of losses. Like, the Raiders kind of show that they are who we thought they were after all this week. Like, they were terrible last night. But the Chargers the Chargers are pretty good, and the Chiefs are 0-2 for the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career. But I'm not writing them off completely right now. You can't write off Andy Reid teams. You just can't do that.
You can't write off Patrick Mahomes teams either. And let's face it, the Chiefs lost to the Eagles, who are a Super Bowl contender, and they lost to the Chargers, who look really good.
Yeah,
and they lost each game by 1 score.
Yep.
Not exactly bad losses for them. You're just not used to seeing them start 0-2.
Yeah,
and you're not used to seeing them lose the Chargers
from the
either.
From last year when they just kept
They won
being
all
in
the one-score games.
and they won all
They
of
had
them,
some
yes.
insane streak of one-score game victories. So, for this last thought for this game, from me at least, shout out to Shane Steichen because he called a brilliant game in this one. Daniel Jones had maybe one throw where I thought was like really high level, and it was early in the game, and I was like, oh man, maybe Daniel Jones is turning the corner. He's becoming a ball player out there. And I watched the rest of the game. It was either schemed up, wide open guys or Jones making terrible decisions and almost throwing the game away. So I was kind of like, he's still Daniel Jones.
Apparently, the Indiana Jones nickname is a thing this season.
I mean,
Well, he's back to Danny Dimes. He started the season Danny Pennies. He won the first game, Danny Nichols. He won a second game, he's Danny Dimes again. So we'll see if he can win a third in a row and become Danny Quarters, or if he's going to go back down.
Well,
My shout out from this game is for Cam Bynum, who had the second best celebration of the week, and
Oh, the
maybe the
pelvic
second, and maybe the
thrust
second, putting the
Yes.
football under his jersey and just doing the little hip thrust dance that
Love it.
their mascot loves to do.
He
It's
did
great.
more than 3 and didn't get a penalty.
Yeah.
So
As long as it's a belly thrust. Just get a belly
this
thrust.
guy make it your gut, yeah. And also shout out to Nick Cross, who made several plays.
Yes.
His name was called a lot in this game.
Yep, he is stabbed.
He had a nice game. So let's move on to let's talk a little Lions Bears. This game was not competitive, so we're not going to spend too much time on it. But
It was for the first 10 minutes.
that means it wasn't competitive.
the Bears got curb stomped in this game.
But there were some notable occurrences in this game
Yes,
that I'm going to let
yeah.
Corey highlight
All
before
right,
you quickly
so
move on.
The best celebration of the week, and in my opinion, the best celebration I've ever seen, came off of an interception from Caleb Williams, where our defense proceeded to run into the end zone and run the fake stumble touchdown pass play that Ben Johnson drew up for us last season.
Oh.
Right in front of Ben Johnson.
Oh, my goodness.
It was great. Like, I've just... Oh my god, I was so excited when I saw that. I was like, oh my god, they're doing the play.
I feel like Ben Johnson is just kind of a crusty guy in general. Like, his demeanor has always been very stern and kind of easily agitated.
But to be fair, I really appreciate his press conference after the game.
Yeah.
So, the Lions scored 52 points in the game, which kind of leads to the other occurrence from this game, which is that Jared Goff joined a very elite list of quarterbacks who have had 5 or more 50-point games as a starting quarterback. He has 5, Peyton Manning had 5, Drew Brees had 6, and Tom Brady had 8. They're the only 4 who had 5 or more 50-point games. So
no generational talents on that list.
No generational talents on that list if you're Ryan
Bunch
Clark.
of bums in there.
As far as Ben Johnson, one of our touchdowns, the reason we got to 52 is because we had a 4th down inside the 5-yard line. And instead of kicking the field goal while we were up, at that point, I guess it was like 45
It was a lot,
to 21 or something like that.
Yeah.
We ran an offensive play, and we scored a touchdown. It was Amon-Ra St. Brown's 3rd touchdown catch of the game. And after the game, a reporter asked Ben Johnson during his press conference, do you feel like Dan Campbell ran up the score on you guys? And his response was basically, what do you want them to do? Like, it's 4th down. They could kick a field goal. They don't kick field goals.
Yeah.
Like, they go for it on 4th down. So, like, I appreciated that. Like, he knows the team that he was just on. He knows
the plays,
he knows that this is
That's what they
this
do.
is the Lions' MO. And he understands that as the opposing team, it's your job to stop them.
Yeah, and the reason why I mentioned that he's kind of a crusty guy wasn't to suggest that he would be upset. It's that he probably actually kind of enjoyed it. He just doesn't show that kind of
enjoyed
Fair.
that might have been like that's pretty good, but he's just like just always seething.
I'd be crusty too if I was coaching this Bears team.
Yeah, and coaching Caleb Williams, but
Yeah.
we'll spend some. I'm sure we'll talk about Caleb Williams at some point
Gonzaga
down the
guy.
road.
We will have
so.
plenty of opportunities because he has continued to not look very good this year.
Yeah,
He looked decent this week targeting Rome Odunze and literally no one else, much to my chagrin, because Odunze went off for almost 30 points against my fantasy team, and I wound up losing by like 10.
Yeah, that's.
I think I had the worst fantasy week of all time this week. It was
Did you
awful.
see William Battles?
No,
He didn't even score 50 points.
Wait till you see what I did in my other league. That was
Well,
abysmal.
your other league doesn't matter, Evan.
Oh, okay.
Other leagues don't matter. All right. So that's all we have for the Lions and the Bears because, again, it was not a competitive game. So let's move on to an actually competitive game Eagles-Chiefs, Super Bowl rematch. I'm just jumping to this one now because why not? The Eagles won 20-17. It was a very boring game.
It was ugly.
I was happy for Saquon to get that rushing touchdown early after he did not get to score a rushing touchdown in the Super Bowl.
I couldn't stick with this game. Like, if maybe the defenses were playing well or something, but I'm like, there's nothing here. And then, like, I was watching the red zone. And since there are only 3 games in a late window, including this Eagles-Chiefs game, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah, I mean,
I wouldn't necessarily say it was great defense for the most part. It was just kind of
I didn't watch.
rough offense for the most part.
It was
like
kind of ugly. And Tom Brady was on the call being
I think
terrible
the Eagles
at it.
ran 7 tush pushes in the game.
Ugh.
and they cheated on half of them.
They cheated on all of them.
Yeah, they probably did cheat on.
They line up with the center so far over the ball, and the rest of the offensive linemen are like in line with him when they're supposed to be a little bit offset from the line of scrimmage. Like,
You can't line up in the neutral zone.
but they do, and it's what they've always done, and the officials don't call it.
And they also jumped early several times as well. So that's my big note for this game is, again, ugly offense. We kind of figured that the Chiefs are going to struggle out of the gate offensively.
Especially with Worthy
being injured and Rashee Rice suspended. So we kind of figured that was going to be the case. And even when those guys come back, I still don't look at this Chiefs offense as like a dynamo.
No, but I think that when those guys are
better,
back, they will be much better, especially against defenses that are not as good as the Eagles' defense tends to be.
But yeah, so again, my note for this game though was this is the last season of the tush push. It's going away. Like, it almost went away this offseason, and then on the Game of the Week game, the Eagles flagrantly cheated against the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead several different times in several key moments, and it has become a major talking point around the league. You can't tell me that one of those 9 holdouts that voted to keep the rule isn't going to flip after what happened in this Chiefs game. It's been put all over the NFL that this is basically, it's always been a questionable play as it is because it looks like a rugby scrum. But now we also know that the Eagles are cheating every time, and the refs don't really seem to know how to officiate it. They, like, especially with the jumping early, because it's so hard to see in real time. But obviously, when you have cameras and things like that, you slow it down.
But that's part of the issue, is that one of the reasons why they don't necessarily see that the offensive lineman is jumping early is because they can't see the ball with the offensive lineman lined up that far forward. And as long as it's close, once you see Jalen Hurts start moving forward, because you never see the ball when it's passed to Jalen Hurts because it stays between the center's legs, basically. Like, how are you going to call a false start on that, even when the replay shows that there clearly was one?
Yeah,
I did enjoy in this game. Kevin Burkhardt seemed to take a little bit of pleasure in calling the wide right missed field goal by Harrison Butker.
He did have a wide right kick.
Dear.
And again, Travis Kelce effectively blew the game, turned what should have been a touchdown into an interception that led to one of the Eagles' few touchdown drives because it got returned to the 41, and the Eagles eventually just ran it down Kansas City's throat. But it doesn't hurt my feelings to see the Chiefs start 0-2. I don't think it hurts anybody's feelings to see that.
Not at all.
But they play the Giants, I think, on Sunday Night Football.
Oh, my God.
Again, we've said this for years. Stop putting the Giants in prime time. But they keep doing it.
But
they're doing America a favor. Now we can all go to bed early.
The actual most exciting game this week was Giants-Cowboys.
That's true.
It felt like the Ravens-Vikings game from like 13 or 14 years ago.
2013 in the snow.
Yes, when
there
were like 5 touchdowns in the last 3.5 minutes of that game.
I had flipped over to red zone at this point because the Ravens had just gotten done walloping the Browns at home.
This was like the first year of red zone too, I think. One of the first years of red zone.
I'm talking. Well, I mean,
you're talking this week,
2 days ago.
I thought you were talking about back when the Ravens were playing.
No, I was broke. I couldn't afford red zone. Okay, it costs $5 a month. I ain't got. So yeah, the Ravens, they just got done walloping the Browns. I flip over, and there's 9 early window games, and they're kind of wrapping those up or whatever. And then like every time they switch to the Giants and the Cowboys, somebody's wide open for 60 yards and a touchdown, just back and forth.
Robinson caught a touchdown bomb. Malik Neighbors
caught like 3.
Russell Wilson had like 430 passing yards in this
Yes.
And they lost.
He could have had more if he didn't have another 100 yards of thrown to the other team.
the Giants were looking for their first win in Dallas since Eli Manning was the quarterback. Like, their last win in Dallas was like 2016.
Ooh.
It's been almost a decade.
Apparently.
And they came that close. But no, Brandon Aubrey kicks a 60-yard field goal at the gun to tie it, send it to overtime, and then he made
like
another
40-something yarder.
Yeah, another long
Wasn't
field.
it a 64-yarder to tie it?
I think so.
It might have been 64.
It hit the
And then
net,
I think it was
too.
a 51-yarder to win it in overtime.
Yeah, again,
Chip shot.
This dude's hitting 64-yard field goals, and we're just like, he hit a 64-yarder. For years, 63
That was the record.
How
until
long
Justin
can he
Tucker.
legitimately keep this up? He's already like 30 or 31 years old, which is
don't know.
crazy to think about because he's only been in the league for like 3 years.
Yeah, because he wasn't
a
even
pro
a football
soccer player.
he played soccer, and his wife said, "Hey, you could make that kick." So he's like, "Yeah, I could. Let me get out there." He worked on his game, and he's the best kicker in the league. So shout out
The
to him.
64-yarder hit the net,
Yeah,
right? Like
it-
Justin Tucker's
I think
66-yarder.
it hit the net higher than the crossbar
Yeah,
is.
his
Yeah,
doinked off the crossbar and bounced over.
Yeah.
Right? He made it by, no
smallest-
distance.
Yeah, the smallest margin you
But,
could. Yeah,
Aubrey's kick hit the net, like, almost in the seats, basically.
might have
Like,
been good from 70 plus.
He
Yeah,
could have
like,
kicked it from 75.
That's crazy. What a G.
I'm very
what a
curious
beast.
to see what like the science says about the new rules regarding kicker balls. Like they're allowed to like supply their own in-game footballs for kickers.
Well, they're missing a lot of the kicks now, so that's great. They're hitting some bombs, but there's been a lot of missed PATs and a lot of missed chip shot field goals. So
I think the Falcons are cutting Younghoe Koo as well. Like, they had a new kicker.
yeah, and he
Sunday
made
night.
all 5 kicks. He was great.
Yeah, and Koo was a DNP-CD. So
because he was
he
a
ain't got
bum.
no job.
He missed the tying kick against the Bucks. That was terrible. So let's move on to Seahawks Steelers because this was a fun game in Pittsburgh. Seahawks win 31-17, and this game featured a hilarious misstep by the Steelers on special teams.
This was a good game up to that point. Like it was a close game.
Yeah.
It really could have gone either way, and it really felt like this play changed
Well, yeah, the
whole
game was
trajectory at the end
tied.
of the game.
Yeah, it was a tie game, and the Steelers were about to get the ball.
Yep.
And instead, they give up a touchdown.
And then they get the ball.
Just
on a
freebie.
kickoff to them.
Yes, on a freebie. Or it's like hey, ball
literal
lands
free
in the
kick.
landing zone. It rolls into the end zone. The returner doesn't field it. He just lets
And there's
it
some
sit
question
there.
as to whether it touched Caleb Johnson or not, but it doesn't
doesn't
matter
matter.
on that play.
And this isn't a
it's
new
a live
rule either.
ball. It's always been that way. If you've ever played Madden,
Yeah,
like when
if you let it sit there, it's basically like an onside kick all the way down the field.
Like I learned this when I was like 9 years old, like playing my first edition of Madden, when I decided to let the ball bounce through the end zone for a touchback on a kickoff, but it didn't go all the way across the end line.
Just sat there, yeah.
And the other team came up and recovered it, and the graphics is touchdown. I'm like, wait a second, how did that happen?
I remember yelling-
I learned the rule very quickly after that.
I remember yelling, "What?" in like as I was losing a Madden game because something like that happened. I was like, "How is it their ball? What's going on?" And just like I was like, "Oh right, you have to field
It
the
works
kickoff.
the same way
It's
as
a
an
live
onside
ball.
kick.
Yeah, it's a live
it
ball.
is.
That's why an onside kick works that way.
Yeah.
It doesn't change because you kicked it downfield. It's just that if you kick it downfield, you should never have the opportunity to actually recover the ball and take possession of it.
Well, the Seahawks did, and they got a free touchdown out of it. But I thought the Seahawks were the better team, even with that aside. I
Well,
think
yeah. We talked about it last week. Even with Aaron Rodgers throwing 4 touchdown passes, he didn't look very good. Their touchdowns came on short drives in every single case. He looked even worse this week.
he did. He did not look like somebody who can play from the pocket while under pressure anymore. He gets very skittish. He rushes his throws. He's still an incredible arm talent. Like he had one throw where he was rolling out to his right, where he just threw an absolute laser beam to Pat Freiermuth, who, because Pat Freiermuth isn't a good football player, dropped it.
Oh, no.
He's incredibly overpaid, and he drops the ball. It was a perfect dime, and I would be furious if I was the Steelers watching that. But even so, play to play, the offense is bad. They can't run the ball. They can't protect Rodgers. He's under pressure all the time. And like I said, he's not built anymore as a soon-to-be 42-year-old quarterback to handle pressure. He's not Tom Brady.
No.
Like he's only a year and change removed from a popped Achilles. Like let's not forget about that, or 2 years, I guess. But it's been a little while, and he just recently recovered from that last year, and he's old. He looks just a little bit like a gun-shy quarterback, and you can't win that way. And the Steelers' defense cannot stop the run. Kenneth Walker destroyed them in the second half of this game.
I thought Kenneth Walker sucked, and he was getting benched for Zach
I don't think
Charbonnet. But
anybody...
then he's lighting up the Steelers. I'm like, well, that means
nobody has ever said that Kenneth Walker sucks.
He's got injury problems.
Yeah, he has injury problems. He's not available a lot, and when he can't play, Charbonnet plays great. But like when they're both healthy, yeah, Charbonnet is good enough that he should get a little bit more run than he's gotten in the past, and they probably are working him into the offense more. That doesn't mean that he's usurping Kenneth Walker as the starting running back when he's healthy, because when he's healthy, Walker is one of the most dynamic players in the NFL.
Walker was much better against the Steelers because the Steelers' interior defense was bad. And he was a one-cut back. He would hit the hole, and he'd be through it, and he'd be gaining 9 yards or oftentimes ripping like 20 to 30-yard carries and things like that. Whereas they were using Charbonnet a bit more on the outside, and he couldn't really get much going. So like, Kenneth Walker was excellent in this football game, and he was the reason why, even with the kickoff snafu, which is in the notes, actually, that's the reason why the Seahawks just kind of controlled the rest of the game, is because they could run the ball. Meanwhile, Rodgers had this one throw. It was the worst throw I think I've ever seen Aaron Rodgers make, where he threw it right to a Seahawk and he just dropped it. It should have been like the easiest pick with room to run in front of him. And I'm like, Aaron had time in the pocket too. He just panicked and just threw the ball somewhere. And I was like, this guy's cooked. Like, again, he's still talented enough to make some completions, and you'll see him make some highlight throws every once in a while. But to run an offense for 60 minutes, those days are gone.
Yep.
All right, so let's move on to, I think the last game we have to talk about, interestingly enough, is Patriots-Dolphins, because this was a shockingly good game.
I didn't see any of this.
The Patriots won 33-27. The Dolphins were able to start getting their offense going a little bit. Tyreek Hill caught a pass for more than 30 yards, which has been a talking point since apparently he hadn't done that in like 16 years or something. But he finally did that, and they asked him about it after the game, and he got kind of huffy with the media about it. And then Tua had some really weird quote about, he basically said, well, these receivers, that they got to understand that, you can't just keep running. You got to look for the ball. Basically saying, a roundabout way of saying, I have a noodle arm and I can't throw it more than 30 yards downfield, so you can't just keep going and expect the ball to get there.
Where did that come from? Because, 2 years ago, he was throwing bombs to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and, he was doing something that Patrick Mahomes struggled with, which is he was actually leading Tyreek Hill down the field 2 years ago. Mahomes was a guy who continually was underthrowing the ball, and Hill had to, wait for it and then rely on his speed to still stay ahead of the defender who was closing on him because of how far underthrown Patrick Mahomes was putting it. Whereas, Tua 2 years ago was throwing it 10 yards further downfield, and Hill had to use his speed to actually catch up to the ball.
Yeah. So what's wrong with Tua then? Is he
that's
hurt?
what I'm wondering is
what is his injury now?
From? Because I haven't heard about anything with his arm.
Well, and the thing is, I feel like back then Tua's timing was a little better getting the ball out too, so he wasn't having to throw it 60 yards down the field or anything like that. But I also think that Tua's been kind of degrading physically since college, ever since that hip injury that he suffered in his third year or second year.
I don't remember. He got injured all the time.
But he suffered a hip injury that put him out for the year, and we just never really saw the same physical athlete that he was. And it seemed like he got his arm strength back up, but you just never know if this is going to take.
And a lot of your power as a quarterback is generated through your hip and
posterior power.
Yeah, it seems like he just doesn't have the, and he's got to be a little shaken up. He's had 1 million concussions.
Yeah.
He hasn't been particularly good against anybody good ever. He's always struggled to win big games. And it feels like he's kind of turned into this mediocre quarterback.
Achane was good
he was great.
For the Dolphins in this game.
And I will say Drake May had a much better game this week for the Patriots than he did this week against the Dolphins than against the Raiders. He made some really good advanced looking plays that were sort of lacking, where he was kind of panicking against the Raiders, leaving the pocket too early.
Is May going to jump past Nix this year? Because last year I feel like the consensus was that Nix was better than May.
Well, I think Nix had a better situation without a doubt, because he had a much better head coach, and he had a better offensive personnel. I think the Broncos' offensive line's really good. So maybe he leapfrogs him. I don't know, but May still has a lot to prove too. So
is this it for the Dolphins? Are we Are they?
I think
like,
it is
done.
So
like, do they have to blow it up and rebuild it? Because I think it's looking kind of over.
I mentioned this in our group chat, but there was an interesting, it's like an interview with Cliff Kingsbury recently, where he was
your boy.
Yeah, my boy. He was talking about like his failure as the head coach in Arizona, and how one of the things he feels like he failed to do early on was establish a culture and establish a sense of accountability between the players and the coaches. And he's learned that was something he was missing from seeing Dan Quinn do it in DC.
Right.
And I feel like that description is Mike McDaniels to a T.
Yeah.
Like, he came in with a very talented team, particularly on offense, but also a defense that at the time he took over as the coach had like a long-standing streak of generating a turnover in every game. Like, they were not a great defense, not an elite defense, but they were a very opportunistic defense that could get the job done if you were able to execute on offense. So coming in with good vibes was enough to have the confidence, to have the offense feeling good and confident and ready to go. But when you don't have a plan, when your scheme doesn't evolve, and when you don't have that culture of accountability where the players are continuing to work and perfect their craft through the offseason and coming back the next year better than they were the year before, then those good vibes fade very quickly. And once you start to have bad games, it snowballs because you can't get things back on track. Like, you lose the locker room very quickly.
Yeah. So I don't think this is that hot of a take, because it's frankly just, it should happen. Mike McDaniel will be unemployed on Friday.
This week.
Absolutely. They're playing the Bills Thursday. They're going to get blown out. They're going to fall to 0-3. They don't have a bye week until week 12. Terminate him Friday.
No, they're getting the mini bye.
Yeah, it's time. Like,
is he coming home from Buffalo?
Or they're going to just leave him on the tarmac?
Like, leave him in Buffalo.
Like Lane Kiffin with the Raiders back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he'll need to find his own way wherever he calls home at this point. But I think he's going to get fired.
I don't know enough about the Dolphins organization to make a prediction like that. But I definitely don't think he's gonna survive like Black Friday or whatever, or Black Monday, whatever it is.
He's not going to make it to the bye week.
Well, we saw him coaching on Black Friday against the Jets in the freezing cold.
We were at
Hershey Park.
Yeah, that was an interesting game. Okay, so that's enough talking about the Dolphins, because, jeez. Yeah. So let's talk about some other news from the week. Unfortunately, we had some quarterback injuries, and one of the main ones that we didn't really address last week was Brock Purdy was injured after week 1. So
he, at the time that we recorded last week, he was questionable. There was he was considered a possibility to play, and then he wound up not playing.
He's going to be out for like 5 weeks. So
that's what it looks like now.
Who took over for him?
Mac Jones.
So
I feel like he played decently.
Yeah, I feel like Corey put this in the notes at first. And first, because people take everything personally, and I saw Corey just wanted to remind me that my team lost at home to Mac Jones, and I was like,
that was not my intention, but it's a happy accident.
I noticed it, and I felt a little hurt seeing 49ers win at Saints with Mac Jones at quarterback. But Jones was very good, and I do think there is an interesting talking point here, because the first time we did a draft podcast was 2020, but the first time we really covered the draft like hardcore for months before we did the show was the following year. Because 2020 we just did it kind of on a whim, COVID, things like that. 2021 we actually started looking at players and following the draft really closely. That was the year that the 49ers traded up for the number 3 pick. And everybody and their mother said that Shanahan was going to draft Mac Jones with that pick. And everybody and their mother made fun of Kyle Shanahan for supposedly considering to draft Mac Jones with that pick. And I still firmly believe that he got spooked because of that and pivoted to drafting the opposite of Mac Jones, which is a complete project quarterback in Trey Lance, who, as we know, was a disaster.
Worse than Mac Jones.
Yeah, far worse than Mac Jones. Well, now he's got Mac Jones as his starter. And they're 2-0, and he's going to be the starter for the foreseeable future, at least another month. What happens if this is Kyle Shanahan's roundabout way of getting his guy? Right? Like, they paid Brock Purdy, which I think was a mistake because Brock Purdy's not that good. I think Mac Jones, as a prospect, was definitely a better player than Brock Purdy was.
As a prospect, but as far as the tape that they've actually put out there in the NFL, Brock Purdy has unquestionably been better.
But he's also had the luxury of playing with Kyle Shanahan as his coach.
Okay, but I'm not even just talking about the success as far as winning games. I'm also talking about like the throwing mechanics look better from Purdy than they've ever looked for Mac Jones.
I feel like Mac Jones, or in this Kyle Shanahan offense, like it's just sort of, you just put in a guy who's not going to mess it up so bad. Right?
I mean, we have seen him have success. He took Jimmy Garoppolo to a freaking Super Bowl, for crying out loud.
Mm-hmm.
And another conference championship game. Like, that happens.
Yeah.
And I also...
So, like, I don't know that Mac Jones is all that special. Like, oh, well, he's been fixed now that he's in Kyle Shanahan's offense.
But still, I think it's a fair question to ask. What if Mac Jones does, plays the way that other quarterbacks who are not themselves great elite quarterbacks but still have success in this offense? What if
he's
he does
gonna go get paid
Is he
by
going to
some
stay
dumb
the
team?
starter when Brock Purdy gets healthy?
No,
but I think that Mac Jones was a good enough quarterback to do this for a Shanahan offense because
against the Saints.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. But the point is that Jones coming out of college, we said he was drafted in the first round, and nobody said that's crazy because we watched him be the best quarterback in college the year before. And he actually had a decent rookie year before Joe Judge and Matt Patricia became his offensive coordinators somehow at the same time. And then he goes to Jacksonville. He backs up Trevor Lawrence. And it was Mac Jones that developed a connection with Brian Thomas Jr., who is currently a disaster. And Mac Jones actually played pretty well in Lawrence's stead last year. So he's shown some ability. I'm not saying Mac Jones is good, but he's an adequate player if he's got the right stuff around him to hold it down. And I think that that's going to be helpful for the 49ers because they have playoff aspirations. They're 2-0. So another quarterback injury that happened during the game this week, most notable one was Joe Burrow, who suffered a grade 3, they called it grade 3 turf toe, which is an interesting way of putting it, but it's bad. And he needed surgery. He's going to be out at least 3 months recovering from that. And the Bengals are also 2-0, which is a miracle for them. They never start that well. But
they played the Browns and the Jags.
Yes, and they struggled to beat the Jags. Jake Browning filled in for Joe Burrow. He filled in for him 2 years ago and played decently.
Yeah, when Burrow had the wrist injury.
Yeah, so Browning did have 3 interceptions this game, but he did lead the Bengals back to win this game while the Jaguars were falling apart and Brian Thomas Jr. was having like PTSD from preseason when Trevor Lawrence tried to have him killed.
So here's the question that I have. 3 months from now, do they actually put Burrow back out there on the field? Because what is the Bengals' playoff hopes like? What are they going to look like at that point? Like, just looking at their upcoming schedule, they play at Minnesota, at Denver, at home against the Lions, at Green Bay in their next 4 games. Then they have the Steelers twice in their next 4. And then they've got the Patriots, Ravens, Bills, Ravens. And that basically takes us to when we would expect to potentially see Joe Burrow back.
It feels like that Ravens, Bills, Ravens stretch is going to kill them. Like, even if they make it to like almost like being around 500, if they don't have Joe Burrow, they're going to lose all 3 of those games.
That second Ravens
like
game
3
is
months,
on
3 months
Thanksgiving
from
Day.
now.
That's
3 months from now is
Thursday.
December 16th. December 14th is that second Ravens game in that 3-game stretch.
Oh, well, that's the first one. For me, the bottom line remains: if QB1 goes down, you're screwed. That's it. You're done. You're not going to win.
Well, especially with this team where everything is invested in quarterback, receiver 1, receiver 2.
Yeah,
like that's their team.
Like
if you're
they
missing
don't,
one of those guys, you're not going to win.
They
you
don't have
your
a
guy.
good offensive line. Their offensive line still is not good. Which
They don't
is
have
part
a
of
good
the
anything
reason,
else other than those 3 players.
which is part of the reason why Burrow ended up getting injured. And then you're going to put a lesser quarterback behind that same porous offensive line, and you're going to expect that he can allow your offense to be competitive. Like,
that's not going to work.
At this point, like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are cooked for the season as far as like their overall production is going to look like. Like, they're going to get a lot of targets.
They're not going to live up to
they're
expectation
not going to get
that they had
quality
in the
targets.
preseason.
I mean,
Chase Brown is probably going to face more stacked boxes.
Yeah.
They become significantly easier to defend. But I will say this, an interesting note from Pro Football Focus, and it's also observable from just watching the tape, the offensive line for the Bengals plays better when Browning is under center. And there's a reason for that outside of just they hate Joe Burrow. That's obviously not the case. Mm-hmm. But Burrow, who is great, holds the ball. And he makes life a little bit tougher with the way they play offense with him. It's shown to be the case for a pretty big sample size. This does happen with Burrow. I'm not saying that you obviously would much rather have Joe Burrow back there. But it is a note about Burrow's play and how
like Joe Burrow's not in danger of getting walled.
Here's my concern with like looking at that metric, because there are quarterbacks who we've talked about like they hold the ball egregiously long. Like guys like Deshaun Watson when he was with the Texans, we talked about this constantly, that he holds the ball way too long. I don't necessarily look at Burrow as a guy that like holds the ball so long that I'm like, dude, you got to throw it. It's they run more complex plays with more complex routes because Burrow can handle that. He has the mind to be able to keep all that information, know what the defense is doing, and get the ball to the right receiver and wait for the route to develop if it needs to. Whereas a guy like Browning, who is not that advanced, you have to run simpler routes, which means more drag routes, more slant routes, more
just
5 and out instead of like 10 or 15 and out routes to get the ball out of his hands quicker. So a lot of that, speed of release is manufactured when you're talking about the difference between Burrow and Browning.
I agree with that. And that was going to be my next point, is that the offense becomes simpler when you have the backup in. But as somebody commented on this thread of discussion about the offensive line and said, well, how was Tom Brady able to do this when he had questionable offensive lines? And
He's Tom Brady.
The response was basically Brady was better at getting the team into quicker looks and putting his team in a better position. Basically, in short, Tom Brady was a much better quarterback. Which he's the greatest football player ever. So it's a safe bet that he's probably better than anybody we're talking about. So
including Joe Burrow.
But obviously Burrow's great, and him being out is ruinous for this team.
Absolutely.
Like they might float along, but they're not gonna.
They're not gonna float along with this schedule.
Who do they have this coming up week? Who did you say? Denver.
No, they got Minnesota.
They're playing at Minnesota this week, so
it's a battle of the
They'll
bats.
probably win that one.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting for the fact that it is going to be
Carson Wentz versus Jake
Lord
Browning.
have mercy.
We are back, baby. We are
1
so
p.m.
back.
on Red Zone.
I might go to Hershey Park on Sunday too.
Yeah, just. I might make that trip to Kennywood this week. Just say skip the Red Zone. But
yes, after the Vikings, they've got in order up to when we would expect Burrow could be back at the soonest. Broncos, Lions, Packers, Steelers, Jets, Bears, Steelers, Patriots, Ravens, Bills, Ravens.
Well, I mean, they beat the Bears, and they'll probably split with the Steelers.
Sure, and the Jets, they could win, especially since it's at home.
Jets?
The Patriots, they'll have a chance against since it's at home.
They can probably beat them.
But still, like we're talking about at least 6 or 7 losses in that 12-week stretch, at least.
Yeah, I agree. And I didn't think the Bengals were all that good, even with Joe Burrow. Anyway, they got lucky to beat the Browns and the Jaguars. Like they were losing when Burrow got hurt.
It's a shame for them too, because like 2-0 is the best start that they've had. Like. Basically in the Burrow, Zach Taylor era.
They couldn't have asked for an easier start to the year, so...
and yet they barely won those 2 games.
Yep, so let's talk about just a couple of other quarterback injuries before we get to our Week 3 stuff.
J.J. McCarthy, we just sort of alluded to.
Yeah, had an ankle sprain, which... At first, I kind of thought this was a Ubaldo pothole situation.
Oh, no.
But upon further review, it did look like he sustained what would be an ankle sprain on the play, and Collinsworth noted it on the broadcast, so I don't think this is just some fake injury to get him out of there because he's overwhelmed. I think
that game was kind of an unwatchable mess, too.
Yeah, it was. So McCarthy's on the shelf for
at least
3
weeks.
It's
a high ankle sprain.
So
yeah, exactly.
It's a high ankle sprain. It's like 3 or 4 weeks is the expected duration.
So we get to see more Carson Wentz in the year of our Lord 2025. Carson Wentz is going to be starting NFL games.
To be fair, what I will say is this for the Vikings. They're in a better situation than the Bengals are as far as this goes, because Carson Wentz at least has had some success in the NFL.
Yeah.
He has experience, and an experienced quarterback, even somebody who's not great, within the Kevin O'Connell system can be very good.
How many lefty 0-yard pick sixes is he going to throw?
I feel like that might get reined in a little bit with the better coaching staff and better offense. One would hope.
But we'll see.
Yes. But
time will tell.
But, yeah, we will see. All right, so let's get to some Week 3 action games that we're looking forward to. And let's start, actually, with Lions at Ravens, Monday Night Football. It's
by far the best game on the slate.
It's a beautiful matchup. Both teams are 1-1. The Lions coming off of pretty much a get-right game after their tough loss against the Packers Week 1. The Ravens, after having whatever that was on Sunday night Week 1, wallop the Browns, as Evan said. This game's in Baltimore. This is offense versus more offense. Like that's pretty much what this is. Both defenses have. I mean, the Lions' defenses looked okay, but they're playing the Bears, and they kind of got worked a little bit by the Packers early in that game in Week 1.
If this game was in like Week 8 or 9, I'd feel a lot better about the Lions' chances, and I'd be more excited for this game. In Week 3, I think that there's too much working against us. Like I'm probably going to pick us against the spread. But my straight up pick, I'm taking the Ravens to win this game. And that comes down to a couple of things. One is that our offensive line is still in the process of gelling. It's not there yet. I think it will get there, but it's going to take some more time. Even against the Bears, we had some pretty rough looking plays on the line where we didn't give Goff enough time. I mean, the fact that we still averaged 8.8 yards per play in that game was pretty remarkable considering the offensive line did not look great. And then on the defense, we cleaned it up down later in the game against the Bears, but those scripted plays at the start of the game, the same part of the game where the Bears had success the week before against the Vikings, they were tearing us up. They were beating us deep. We've given up some really big plays in both of our games. It was really that I think prevented us from staying in and potentially competing for a win against the Packers in Week 1. Were like 2 or 3 big chunk plays, 2 of which went for touchdowns against the Packers. So those are plays that Lamar Jackson is going to take advantage of against us. The Ravens have a solid defense where I'm not going to count on us scoring on every drive.
My question is, which Raven is going to deflect a 4th down pass to a Lions receiver for a touchdown?
Yes, exactly.
I don't know what Marlon Humphrey was doing.
I don't know either. Right?
He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just on Twitter all the time talking nonsense. But Evan, give me your take on your team for this game.
I mean, what team's going to show up, right? Like, is it going to be the first 3 quarters against Buffalo? Is it going to be the 4th quarter against Buffalo? Like
it's going to be all of that. You just have to hope you
all
hold on for dear life. That's how it's the Ravens.
You have to build up enough of a lead in the first 3 quarters to
not blow it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is apparently a chore because 21 points apparently wasn't enough against the Dolphins at one time. So.
Yeah. So got to be up by at least 22, I guess. 25.
The Lions
30?
got a lot of good 2-point conversion plays, so you might need to make
the Lions
25.
have some firepower.
Yes, they do.
I mean, this is a game the Ravens are capable of beating all 31 other teams.
Oh, yeah.
But, like...
And themselves, so all
But that's what I was about to say. Like, are they going to play like it? They're just so inconsistent and so poorly, I guess, coached or led or directed in terms of situational football.
You mean the Ravens are poorly coached? Who's been saying that on this podcast for the last several years? Oh, that was right. That's me.
Yeah.
The whole time,
right? Like the situational football is what's lacking. So like Marlon Humphrey trying to intercept a pass inside our own 5-yard line on 4th down. What are you doing? You knocked that ball down.
Kyle Hamilton had that covered beautifully too. Like it was excellent defense until the ball got to Marlon Humphrey, and then it turned into stupid defense right away. And you guys had another landing zone infraction on a kickoff. That happened.
Oh.
So
yeah, just a bunch of dumb stuff.
Y'all need to get it together.
And
I was ready.
You got him started.
All right, come on.
There was a really infuriating series where DeAndre Hopkins caught what looked like a touchdown.
Yes.
It was called back because it wasn't a touchdown.
Short, yeah.
1st and goal at the half-yard line.
Y'all didn't score.
We kicked a field goal.
Yeah.
Because there was, I want to say a running play that lost yardage. A false start because the backup tight end is playing fullback now, and he couldn't sit still for a second longer.
See, I'm scared in part because Derrick Henry was so bad in this game that this coming week could be a get-right game for him against us.
I mean, he's going to need that because he like 14 carries for 21 yards or something. Like, that's awful.
Looking like Ned Stark at the end of season 1.
Sure.
No head? Like, what's... Okay, sure. That's an interesting reference.
So the Ravens have plenty of stuff to clean up.
King say the king. Well, King looked not like the king in this game
Against Cleveland.
Ned Stark wasn't ever a king.
Cleveland's defense is
He's
great.
a warden of the North. He was never a king.
Fair enough. He was never king of the North. To be fair, like the Ravens always lose a game to the Browns like every year.
Well, they didn't lose this one.
No,
They didn't lose this.
Next time.
It'll be the next one.
Next time. All right. So quickly, because we're coming up on time, we got Rams at Eagles Sunday night game. This is a rematch of what was actually a really good playoff game last year. Both teams look a little sluggish on offense. This could be this could turn into a kind of an ugly game, I think.
It's in Philly.
It is, yes. It's in Philly, I believe.
Okay.
Rams Eagles is 1:00 on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What?
in Philly.
Yeah.
Why is it at 1?
Because they're predicting it's going to be an ugly game, like I said. I don't
Who's playing it Sunday night then?
Chiefs Giants.
Ugh, God. Are you serious? This is a...
Yes, he's serious. All right, so basically,
God.
I'm interested to see how this plays out because both teams are 2-0, but neither team has looked like them yet for 60 minutes. So I'm just kind of like, this is pretty much me just observing, but I think that like I still think the Eagles are the better team.
How much does this game matter for both teams, right? Like,
Anytime
you know,
the two prospective playoff teams face each other in the regular season, it matters because it could determine who plays at
Seeding
home
matters,
if they face each other in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's true.
but I mean, does either team need this game badly? Because I feel like either
It's
teams,
week
they're both going to
3.
win their division by like 3 games.
It's week 3. They're both 2-0. Neither team needs this individual game badly for their own sake. But
I would say the Rams have more to worry about because I think they're in a better division, to be honest. Like, I think that the Seahawks are pretty good. The 49ers are hanging in there. And the Cardinals are the fakest 2-0 team since the Colts.
They're
So,
2-0?
you know, yeah. They beat the Saints and... Did they beat this week?
The Panthers.
Yes, that's
oh my
that
God!
is the fakest 2-0 of all time. Yes, but they are
terrible NFC South
But they
teams.
are
Those
2-0.
two teams should be relegated to the SEC. Like this.
I agree.
Ugh.
And one of them was my team.
I
So
think
yeah,
the SEC might be too competitive for them.
Oh, the Sun Belt.
That's more like it.
Okay, it's the Fun Belt after all.
I'll take the ACC to be honest. Put us past the music channels or whatever on ACC network.
1372.
All right, so our last game to talk about, Broncos at Chargers, divisional matchup. Chargers defenses look great. Like their secondary looks really nasty. The Broncos defense looked a little leaky against the Colts at times.
But to be fair, the Colts have scored on every single possession they've had this season. So maybe the Colts are just a really good offense.
That's not true, though. I watched the playback. That didn't happen. The Colts punted at least once, and they had a 4th down
maybe it
turnover.
was maybe there was a.
It was after
point
the
in
first
game.
game.
Then.
Yeah, the first game.
I know it happened in
and
the first game, but there was at some
they
point
had a
during
stretch,
the second
but
game.
the second, but
Okay.
at some they did
So
not
that did
score on
end,
every
okay.
drive in their second game.
Okay.
That would be insane. But yeah, Herbert's looked good. He did have that really bad throw that should have been picked last night, where he got like the most immaculate pass protection ever, and people are putting it up on the internet like saying, "Oh my God, these guys look like they're not even playing football. They're just road grading." And he like threw to a wide open linebacker who dropped it.
A wide open linebacker.
It was the most ridiculous. I was like, "What are you doing, Herbert?" Like, it's plays like that makes me doubt you, right? Because I'm like, okay, he's got all the tools. He's
Slinging
really good.
ropes.
He's throwing ropes.
60
He had
yards.
a rope touchdown pass yesterday. But that play right there, I was just like, dude, like that was brutal. That was one of the ugliest throws I've seen of the week. And Herbert has thrown great balls for the last 2 weeks. So
Keenan Allen still got a little something in the tank.
the chemistry he has with Herbert was readily apparent as soon as he went back to LA.
And something that I was about to mention earlier when we were talking about the Steelers-Seahawks game and talking about how the Steelers couldn't get a run game going, Najee Harris looks better than he ever did as a Steeler. Like, he looked legitimately good last night running the ball.
He's in a better offense, I think, for running backs. Greg Roman loves to run the ball.
He also
And
just looks
they've
more,
got-
but he also looks more explosive.
I don't know what to make of that. Maybe he just didn't like playing for the Steelers, but like, Yeah,
maybe just looks faster with a lightning bolt on his head too.
Yeah, but it is kind of weird that the Chargers offense has been very throw happy this year when they had a lot of success being a run first offense with Greg Roman, with Jim Harbaugh. That's kind of been those two guys' MOs, is to run the football.
And you've got, Najee Harris, who has shown that he can be a workhorse running back. Maybe not always the most efficient guy, but he can handle a lot of touches. And you got a really good young rookie running back in Omarion Hampton.
Yeah.
Who they refused
apparently
to use
fumbled last night.
Yeah, he grasped the ball yesterday. So anything else on Broncos Chargers, Evan?
I mean, not really. It's going to be a bunch of Broncos fans there.
Yeah, that's true. So, but the Chargers are pretty good. So,
yeah,
this could be
I think the Chargers win.
Yeah, I think I would pick them to win at this point too. So,
can we talk about Saints Seahawks?
No,
if you really want to, but I think we're on time. We're coming up on time here. We're an hour in at this point. So, all right, that does it for our Week 3 discussion. Fellas, before we get rolling, any shout-outs? Evan, you go first.
I would like to shout out the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets beating Clemson on Saturday afternoon.
Y'all had Dabo crashing out in the post-game press conference.
That's too bad,
and it was
Dabo.
Great. I thought it was great.
We haven't beaten Clemson since 2014.
Well, we got one on him. So
yeah.
I said this in the Sasquatch chat, as we call it.
Deshaun Watson played in that game in 2014.
Yeah. Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, sneaky college football playoff contender?
I mean,
maybe.
Are there 4 more wins out there for them?
4 more
need more
wins.
than 4 to win, so get to the college football playoff.
Gonna have to win the rest of them.
Bowl games.
No. They only need to win 3 more to get a bowl game.
True.
Yeah. No, I mean, we might struggle against NC State, in terms of just the conference. We don't have Miami or Florida State this year, so
y'all are cooked.
I mean, we would have to win the conference to guarantee a spot in the playoff.
If that's all you gotta do. That's all you gotta do.
Right, but that would probably involve playing Florida State or Miami.
Do it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. To quote Shia LaBeouf.
So, I mean, we'll see what happens. I would love to win the day after Thanksgiving. That would be great.
Is it in Athens or in Atlanta?
It's in Atlanta,
okay,
which is worse.
That is worse because y'all never win at home.
We haven't beaten them in Atlanta since 1999.
It's a little while ago. So.
Yeah.
Shout out to my cross-country athletes. Almost every one of them set a new PR this past weekend at Chesapeake High School, so good for them. And then also shout out to my favorite band, which is performing tonight in Baltimore, and sadly I could not be there. No, Cartel.
Oh. Okay.
But they're performing in Baltimore tonight, so shout out to them. They just released a 2025 version of their most popular album from 20 years ago. It's the 20-year anniversary tour.
Like a remaster? Or
like remasters, but like slightly changed like the actual music as well. Like they re-recorded them and updated it.
Gotcha. Well, my shout out is musically inclined as well. Shout out to Jimmy Eat World and Blink-182 and Bowling for Soup because they were there too at the.
Did they play the Phineas and Ferb theme song?
They did.
Did
yes,
they? That's
they
awesome.
Did. They played the Phineas and Ferb theme song because they mentioned it. They said, "Hey, we did a theme song for a certain cartoon." And I was like, I was trying to remember which cartoon did they do a song for, and then they played.
And they just started making new episodes of Phineas and Ferb again, like recently.
Nice. So that happened. Everybody was great. It was a great time in Washington, Pennsylvania at the 4-Chord Music Fest, and I will definitely check the lineup next year to see if I return because I really enjoyed myself over there. So that does it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you are tuning in on YouTube, you can get this podcast also on Apple and Spotify. You can reach us at thesportsballers@gmail.com if you have any topics you'd like us to discuss or any feedback that you wish to provide us. You can also follow us on Twitter at sportsballers18, and you can follow us individually. I am at Quagmire67, Corey is at Corey Puffin, and Evan is at Evan_Ash13. And that was way more difficult to say because I went out of order and it freaked me out for a second, but we got through it. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. We will be back next week to recap what happened in Week 3 and get into a little bit of Week 4 stuff. And if any other sports news happens, like baseball related, we might get into that too. But until then,